up, Eager to Pleasers? Welcome back to another episode of the Eager to Please podcast. Today, we're talking about something that makes most of us a little uncomfortable: vulnerability. Why is it so hard to be open, and what happens when we finally are? I have the honor of introducing one of the most positive people I know, one of my dear friends, Jill Mozley. We are so fortunate that she's willing to share her personal example of how being vulnerable in a relationship quite literally helped save her marriage and fostered a stronger connection. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you this month's special guest. Jill, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Natalie. It's such a pleasure to finally get on your show. We've been friends for quite some time, and I've just been waiting for this invite. So awesome. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I think our story is actually a second example of being vulnerable, because I like to start off by letting our listeners know how my guests and I know each other. And so I don't know if you want to share your recollection of it, or if you want me to share my recollection. It's probably going to be the same thing, but I'll let you go first.
All right, Natalie. Well, no problem at all. No pressure here. Natalie and I actually met. We both were moving into the same community at the time, and we were through the first rounds of building a new home together. So talk about vulnerability. We had no idea what to expect. So running into each other throughout this process has really, really helped not only foster our relationship and our friendship, but also through a brand new process that none of us had really been through before. So that was a little crazy experience to begin with. But what also drew us is that we have kids that are similar in age. And so it was just a natural fit for us to kind of go through this new journey together and go through these different experiences. So I've been really enjoying being friends with Natalie outside of that experience. We both have the love for music. And so that was another draw and another win on my end. Mm-hmm. And so when she talked to me about what her music careers are, what she wanted to do with this podcast, some of her, personal journeys, it was just a no-brainer for me to volunteer and come and talk to you all today. We've both gone through similar roads, and fortunately, I was able to bounce back out of some of them. And so I'm excited to share that with you. But Natalie, I'm going to go ahead and stand over to you. And if there's anything that I missed in our journey together, feel free to share that as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I will add in there too, we live close to a local winery. And so that would be our excuse to run away from, our kids and home lives just to go and chit chat and, have some girl time. So just adding that in there too. Those were some of the moments that I remember where we were able to connect on a more personal level. And to my earlier point before, where we were able to start being a little more vulnerable with each other, just because, sometimes there's just something about the other person where you're like, man, we really get each other, and I feel safe sharing things with this person. And so for me, that was you.
I couldn't agree more on my end as well.
So let me start by asking you this question, since our topic and theme for this month is vulnerability. And if you had to define in your own words what vulnerability means, how would you define it in terms of a relationship?
Absolutely. Oh, that's a good question. Vulnerability to me is really just opening up, being yourself, letting those doors open up, knocking down those walls, and just truly being your authentic self, providing feedback, asking, hard questions that you might not be necessarily comfortable to be in certain situations. For me, in being in a relationship, me and my husband, we've been together 26 years and married 17 years now. We've gone through a lot of different things, like dating. We went on a blind date through mutual people that we knew. And it was that was being vulnerable too, taking a chance. We didn't know what each other looked like. We didn't really know much of the details at all, other than people are like, we're highly recommending you all to get out there and date. We met, had that first date, and it was a no-brainer. All right, these two really knew who we were. We were totally meant to be. And stars aligned that night. And for several years afterwards, we traveled the world together. We had good laughs. We had all this wonderfulness. in the 8 years that we dated before we decided to get hitched.
Tie the knot.
I know, we tied the knot after 8 years, and everyone's like, why is it taking so long? Well, we wanted to experience life. We wanted to make sure that this was truly it. We went to college. We did the unthinkable of living together through college in our early 20s. And that was an experience and a lot of fun and things that we still continue to look back on. But why I tell you this story is because I think a lot of people get hung up that you get married because you love this person. They have a lot of fun. You have all, these great times together. A marriage in a relationship is so much more than just that. And so it was about collaboration and really understanding, where do we see each other? How do we, do we want to have kids? Do we want to get married? How are we going to raise these kids? What are we going to do with our monies? And how are we going to plan for all this? Those were deep conversations that not every married couple can actually have. And the fact that we did do that and we thought we were doing all the right things, waited to get married, waited to have kids, waited to do all this so that we can get our careers started. We moved states together and decided, like, is this where we want to have kids? And then we had them and we thought, this will be easy. We have the whole plan figured out. It was anything but. And so here's where the vulnerability comes in again. So we were vulnerable thinking that we're doing all these things. We can move to another state, start a new family, do all these things without family support because we had such a core element in our marriage. And once those kids came, and just like everybody else that has kids, I will tell you that I barely mind anybody that does not have any issues after kids come. They start to separate you, and it's just a natural thing that happens, but they don't mean to. But you have them. There's, dependencies. There's, things that they rely on you for that you've got to make sure that you're coming through. And then you have your careers. You've got the demanding jobs. You've got the time that it's sucked there. You're commuting. You're having to make food. You're having to do all these things that you start to lose time together. You start to lose the time that you used to have even for yourself because you have to do this selfless thing of raising your kids. And so the vulnerability in this point is taking a chance in asking those tough questions again. Me and my husband had beautiful marriage, beautiful time, prior to the kids. And once those kids came, we stopped talking and we stopped putting each other, having the time for each other, because it wasn't because we wanted to, we just lost sight of it. Or we were so exhausted that we just went to bed each night and we didn't have that time for each other. And so if we could have done things differently, we would have taken that 5 or 10 minutes and made sure that we did that. But the fact that we didn't, and 2 years goes by and we're both resentful of each other, resentful of the kids, not doing it with them, like not showing it to them, but it was sticking in the back of our heads. We forgot the importance of each other. We forgot why we fell in love with each other in the beginning or in the first place, why we decided we wanted to get married and have these kids. And it was really important that one day an event took place and we both just had enough. And I said, we've got to have this conversation. And here's where we got to be more vulnerable. He did not like it. He was very uncomfortable. And I had to ask him, like, why are you so uncomfortable to talk to me? We used to talk and share stories all night long and laugh. And we never had a hard time talking to each other. But now all of a sudden we've grown apart. And we have two choices. We either fix this or we don't. And I'm choosing to fix it. And so I want to have this hard conversation and I want you to have it with me. So we put the kids to bed, got in our room. We both grabbed a beer, which we weren't drinking at the time, but we both felt the need to do it because this was our way of letting loose a little bit. So we had a conversation and I had to ask him, like, why is it that you hate me so much? And he was like, I don't hate you, Jill. I'm like, well, you don't talk to me. You walk right past me. You stopped asking me how my day was. You stopped kissing me goodbye before you leave the house. And he's like, well, you did the same. You didn't stop me from going out there. And he was like, I thought you hated me. And I'm like, no. So this is where the communication comes in. So we had to learn to ask deeper questions. So when did it start? When did we notice that this change in our relationship started happening? Where did I go wrong with you? And I have some things to share with you as well, but asking those deeper questions and clarifying. My biggest one, and this was my driver, I finally said, I overhear you talking to your mom all the time and you tell her that I don't do anything. That's not true. I clean the house. I do all these. I was defending myself, and that wasn't the right thing to do either. So, but I was getting defensive when I needed to just sit back, ask a question, and listen. So I started to see his reaction, and then I backed down, and I'd ask, okay, what does that mean when you talk to your mom and you tell her that I'm not doing anything? What does that even mean? He's like, well, it's the kids. I always have to take them. He was like, you're doing the dishes after dinner and I have to give them a bath. I have to brush their teeth. Honestly, I hate doing it, Jill. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable for me. I don't want to do it. I'm like, they're 2 and 4 years old. What do you, your kids? Why are you uncomfortable to give your own kids? He was like, I just don't like it. He goes, I go home, I cook the dinner. I just want to just relax and sit. And I go, so if I brush the teeth and I give them the baths, like that solves everything? He said, yeah. And I'm like, for 2 years, this is what you've been mad at me about? And he was like, yeah, that's the only thing. He was like, I don't care about you keeping the house clean. I don't care about all these different things. He was like, it's great, but it's not nice to have. He goes, that thing stresses me out every night. I just don't want to do those two things. And I was like, well, why didn't you just say something? So little things of just asking questions and diving and recognizing that, hey, I'm hearing these things. I'm seeing these things. What does that mean? And keep getting deeper, keep probing until you get the root of the problem. I will tell you, after I fix that, life has been really good. And so that thing that they say that guys are so simple and girls are a little bit more complex, it's very true. We just need to ask the right questions and we get there. But Natalie, I know I'm going to give this back to you in just a second, but I think one last thing on the vulnerability for me as well is just really, I needed to really understand his love language. He needed to understand mine. And so through this process of asking all these questions, and I understood now that my husband doesn't like gifts. He doesn't thrive off of that. He doesn't need affirmation. He's very strong-willed, very confident guy. He knows what he wants. He knows what he needs to do. Mine, on the other hand, obviously I'm cleaning the house. I'm doing all this stuff, killing myself to keep the house running. And that's all the wrong things. He didn't care about any of those things. He just wanted to make sure that he didn't have to give the kids baths and brush their teeth. So it's as simple as that. Ask the questions, figure out their love languages, and speak to that. So for him, mine was back to him. I need affirmation then. You're asking me to do X, Y, and Z. I know it's got to be more simple and there's got to be more jobs for me to do around this house other than go to work, brush teeth, and do the showering. But these are things that I needed, like, hey, let me know when I'm doing something right. Let me know if there's something that I'm doing that's not, hitting your standard or what you're needing from me, so that I have a chance to learn from that and fix it. So I thrive on affirmation. He is the showing and the doing. Take things off my plate, make my life a little bit easier. When you see me doing X, Y, and Z, just hop in and help. And that has saved our marriage. And so today we can pick he can start something, I can pick it up, and vice versa. We ask a lot more meaningful questions, and I'm seeing so much more support from him. My kids see it. And again, we would have never made it to 17 years marriage. We probably would have ended closer to maybe like 9 or 10. So our kids are now 15 and 13. So it's been a while. My numbers are a little bit off on the years, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, that's my story about vulnerability.
And I love all of that because you are a good example of pushing through that hard part. I mean, I've seen a lot of memes out there that say, there's several stages to relationships, the honeymoon, and then whatever, 2 and 3, I forgot all the names, but there's a phase in the middle there where it's like, you're either going to push through and fix the problems, and then you'll have your golden years later, or you will separate and just, move in different directions. And so one thing I wanted to ask, what gave you the courage to be the one to say, like, we're fixing this now? Because not everyone is able to have those conversations, especially if like two people are similar. And I don't know, maybe you and Derek are similar in certain ways and not in another, and which is why you work. But when you have two people that think the same way or avoid conflict the same way, someone has to be the one that's like, you know what, this is not working. And we have to figure out what's going on, or come to the table and be like, look, we're not leaving this room until something is fixed one way or another. So, what gave you the foresight or the initiative to come to the table?
I love it, Natalie. It's absolutely true. There's always that one person that has to, and I feel like I'm always the one in any relationship, family, kids, everything. I'm always the one that like, all right, we've got to be the voice of reason. But I really think in my place, we're very spiritual in our family too. But I just felt like God was coming to me and going, Jill, you got to do something bigger. Like I've never been one to quit on anything. I don't quit jobs. I don't quit relationships unless they really deserve that. And it's very few times has that ever happened there. But for me, it was reflection. Like, gosh, we've been here together for all these years. And at some point in our life, we loved each other and we had so much fun. And I would just go back and you know me with my pictures, Natalie, I'm very big with my pictures, but I go back and like that reflection. I was like, before I give up, and there was really a close chance I was giving up. I was like a little toddler throwing fits and like, I don't understand how I cannot get this guy's attention. And I didn't know what way it was going to take. Right. And so I think for me, it was just like, take a time out, go back and reflect all the years and just seeing the big smiles and the laughs and the memories and doing all those things. And it was like, you know what? There's no way that I hate this man. I know that I love this man. I know I want more. And then knowing his history too, you know, his family, he comes from, you know, broken homes and just knowing that maybe he didn't always have the same level of guidance to deal with relationships. Right. He's very, I don't say he's not introverted, but he's very private and he keeps things to himself. So I know communication is not his strong point in that way of being able to share feelings and what he's doing, but he does show his love. And that was my way of like, you know what? He may not tell me all the right things. And I didn't think that he loved me because he wasn't telling me he wasn't, but no matter what, through all of this, he made sure me and my kids were always fed, that we were set up and ready. My car was never without gas. There was like little things that if he truly didn't love me anymore, he would have stopped doing all those things. And so it was really me having to take a look deep inside and saying, hey, before you give up, or is this really something you really want to give up on? Understanding, and then go back and ask the right questions. And so that was mine. Going back through those years, am I going to give all this up? And then we said our vows, and we said, you know, to death do us part. Yeah. Like every relationship, every lifestyle, it has its highs and lows. It's a roller coaster. It's peaks and valleys. And I just looked at it at this point in time. Here was our valley. We got to go back through that peak, and only strong are going to survive it. But we won't be able to do it unless we find out the reason why we fell into this slump. And we can't blame the kids. We can't blame those things. It's our fault too. We didn't communicate properly. And so that was my eye opener. And so once I was able to do that and give him a safe place to talk and not get defensive and truly hear him, as painful as it was to get some of that feedback, it really opened the doors. And I think that was important for us.
Yeah, you totally took the question right out of my mouth, because I was going to touch on being able to feel safe enough in your relationship without, you know, someone automatically jumping down the other person's throat or getting defensive. I mean, you have to go in with no guards up, no walls, all weapons are down. And it's like, this is me talking to you, you know, me to you. Let's have a conversation. So what do you think made you both feel safe enough to do that? You know, because you're coming in already heated and you're like, oh, this is really irritating me about the other person. And we all have those qualities, you know, things that you do probably irritate him and vice versa.
Oh,
but, you know, how do you learn to set your weapons down?
Yep, exactly. So I think for us, that safe place was really like knowing that this could be it. This could be it. Like this conversation is either going to take us in the right direction or it's going to send us in the wrong direction. And so I think that was it. It's like, let all guards down and reminding him, like, we're going to be vulnerable right now and we're going to ask some deep questions. And we both need to be honest with each other and with ourselves. Is this salvageable? Is this where we want to go? What's going to be it for kids? Because we both agreed that we would not stay around for the kids. We would stay around for each other. And so I said, let's put everything aside and let's deep in there, because there's things that I irritate you with, and we need to talk about what those are. And hopefully they're easy fixes. You can't ask me to change who I am. I'm very extroverted, and that makes him uncomfortable sometimes too, because we'll go out in public and it's just like the attention just gets drawn and he just like crumbles. He's like, he just is very uncomfortable. He hates going in public with me because of that, because he was like, Jill, I don't feel important because everybody wants to stop and talk to you, or they're all staring at you or doing all these different things. And then I said, well, I can't change that. That's just my makeup. So you're either going to have to accept it and learn how to get through it. And just like, I'm going to have to help you along with yourself too. So like that's how we kind of do things. And now we can go out in public, and I just always have to remember, all right, is he doing okay? I just like watch the body language. I look and I just make sure that I'm bringing him along through the process and making sure that he's getting my attention while others are giving me some too. And so, but I never really paid attention to it before. And so that was the thing. It's like, that's why I don't like to go out with you. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't notice that because I'm so extroverted and I'm so worried about getting, conversations in. So that's another piece. I think that's a one that's helped us both too. So he's more comfortable now going out with me because I give him the attention that he needs, and then he feels better. And it's like stroking a puppy dog. Sorry, Derek, I don't mean to make you sound like a puppy dog, but that's really what it is. Just give them that little bit of attention and it goes a long way. And then you can go back to doing what you need to be doing. So
yeah, absolutely. Going into that part of the conversation, obviously your relationship has changed over time, being able to be more vulnerable with each other. And so how do you keep that going forward? Now that you have been more established, 17 years is quite a chunk of time to be together. And plus that's probably not even including the time you just dated, right? That might be marriage time. Yeah.
26 years total together since that first date. But yeah, we do a lot. It helps now. It really helps that the kids aren't 2 and 4 anymore. Yep, they're 15 and 13. And so they're a little bit more independent while we still deal with all the travel balls and the school, stuff that they're working on. It doesn't put a strain, but it does, require a lot of driving around and doing things that are for them. And so while we make them a priority in the evenings, we try to set up different times, like having a nice dinner where they eat first and then we can still have some of that downtime, or we'll go and do little dates. Our big thing now, Natalie, you'll love it. We're always going to concerts now. It's fun that we are like, all right, boys, use it, stay home. We've got y'all set up. We're heading out. And so those date times are really important. So while, whether you are an established relationship, newer, young kids, no kids, like always find that time for yourselves, find time for your friends, find time for the family. You've got to have that balance. But we've really done a good job of cultivating that now. We're seeing a difference in our kids' attitudes, our own. We really are focused on our relationship. But again, the kids come first during the day. Those evenings are all about us. And it's been a lot of fun. And it almost feels like we're dating again. Back in the day, I'm like, we are having the same fun that we had back in the day. We're having the same level of conversations and we're finding new memories to make. And the laughter, it's very contagious on both of our ends. So that's those peaks and valleys. It does get better as the kids get older, but we also hear on the flip side that sometimes it's more challenging because some families need that that sense of needing something from the kids. We don't have that. We had so much of that early on that we're good with where we're at. So again, having that open communication, if you are a family or folks that need some of those things, helping each other out, again, talking, being vulnerable, and being very supportive.
Yeah. And also I might add in there too, like non-judgmental, just because if someone is coming to you and sharing with you their feelings, being open and responsive and I guess receptive to that because they're actually sharing something that's important. Like you can't control how the other person's feeling because that is valid for them, but just being willing to say, okay, I hear you, but this is where I'm coming from. And then trying to find a middle ground, all this stuff I wish I would have been able to deal with better, obviously when I was in my own, valleys, but things you can improve on, moving forward. So yeah, I love that you guys were able to navigate that.
Thank you.
Something that I guess has stuck with me too is about this whole podcast about being eager to please and a perfectionist and trying to make everything perfect for everyone. I've learned that vulnerability is not about being perfect or saying the right thing to the other person. It's about being real and sharing how you truly feel. So they're not trying to guess or read between the lines because, no one is a mind reader, but obviously no one's out to get you intentionally either. So it's one of those things where if you can't let people in or you don't let people in, you're not going to be able to fix what's broken. So,
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think having conversations and again, being open-minded and taking in feedback or learning what's worked, what hasn't worked for other folks, it does help. And so there was a lot of conversations being made outside the marriage because again, we've started to separate. And so over those 2 years, it was really hard. I didn't know the right questions to ask. I didn't really even understand how I was feeling. I just was feeling like attacked and taking things very personally. Mm-hmm. And all I really needed to do was just ask the right questions and really understand what drove him and what were things that I was doing that was, maybe either hurting him or making him feel pushed out as well. And so it was just little simple things of taking care of the kids and understanding when we were in public, we got to dinner, like, can he just get a little bit more of that attention? I didn't even realize I wasn't giving it to him. So those are all perceptions and internalizing and all of those. And a lot of it was his insecurities that I wasn't necessarily, monitoring or, even noticing in that case. I'm very, very vulnerable when it comes to those things. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even know that those were really happening. I'm so sorry. But being empathetic and really understanding, like you said, Natalie, everyone's going to have their own thoughts and feelings, and you can't change those, and nor do I want to ever change them, but I want to better understand them. And so I think that's for me. I do that not only with my husband, but with friendships and people I work with, anybody that I encounter. I try to have that open-mindedness and just spread joy, spread love, and hopefully get that back into reciprocation. So that's, I think, what's been helpful.
You do a good job of that. That is for sure. As I said in the beginning, you are definitely one of the most positive people. So I definitely think you're spreading joy. Yeah, wherever you go. So how did you learn to ask the right questions? Did you use, outside resources or therapists or friends? Not everyone thinks that therapy is their route, but, sometimes it does help just to get a different perspective or a neutral party's perspective on things. But, I tend to rely on my friends for that. So yes. What did you do to be able to figure out the right questions to ask?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Natalie, I think part of it was our little wine sessions, picking up our wine orders at Arrington, just having natural conversations. And a lot of times we would talk about work or kids, right? And this is a good starting point as well, because with kids, they're learning so much too, and they're teaching us so many things. And so I think through our conversations of navigating through our kids that were getting ready to go into high school, and then you've had some going into middle school, same with me, and same thing elementary, all different stages. But asking questions, understanding what are some of the things that you're facing with, because, you have 3 kids, I've got 2, you've got all girls, I've got all boys. So it's just like trying to figure out this navigation, but we all still experience similar hurdles. And so I think you helped me a lot through the journey of just learning how to ask questions, and how you would, respond back to some of the questions would help me understand, like, oh, I need to ask additional things. Oh, I didn't think about those. Let me come back and try to implement some of it. And then we have other friends too. And I've got friends of all ages. So it's neat to hear some of my younger friends and some of the middle-aged ones with me, some of the older ones, getting perspectives of, that they're in validation too, that what we're all going through is normal, and that they've all had similar experiences, and that the older folks that have made it through, my parents included, they celebrated their 50th anniversary. And it wasn't always roses. And they remind me, they're like, hey, kids are hard. Marriage is hard. Work is hard. Life is hard. Everything in different stages. And they've been through so much, right? You've got, even when the economy is going up, everyone's living the dream and having a grand time. But when it starts to decline, how do you prepare for that rainy day? How are those things? So that's, I think, taking all that collectiveness of experienced folks that can really help shape where we're going and how we want to do our life and how we want to prepare with our kids in the next journeys and so forth. So never therapy, but I always consider friend conversations over wine is just as good as therapy, if not better. Get a little tipsy and get some feedback. It's really fun, and I recommend it for everyone. But that's really how we did, and that's how we've gone through our things. Derek, on the other hand, I don't think he doesn't do as much therapy, but he does listen and he reads a lot. So I think that between the two of us, we got a nice little balance there.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. So is there anything that you think we haven't covered on vulnerability that you would like to share?
Oh, gosh. I think we covered quite a bit. I'm sure there's been something right after we get off this call that I'm like, oh, I should have said this. But I really think the biggest part to being vulnerable is really break down those walls, open those doors, open up your mind, and be true to yourself, true to the people that you're talking to. You don't do a good service to anyone if you're just telling them what you think that they want to hear. Again, that perception, we can't be mind readers. Someone may be, the most happiest person and could be aching inside, and you just don't know that. So don't let that perception fool you. Ask questions, be open-minded, share feedback, give feedback, accept feedback. It's really, really important, and it's a skill that has to be learned. I think for me, I've been in sales for the last 20 years. And I think the first time I went through my first sales training, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of questions you got to ask. Not something that came naturally to me, but I think it helped over time. And anybody who has been in that realm, it's very consultative, and you're going through and asking questions, and you're driving a conversation, taking somebody in a route that you want. You get to a lot more control around there. Not that you want control over a relationship, but if you're working with somebody that's not used to being open and sharing, it really does help of taking them through that experience without them even knowing it, because you lead them to an answer that they've been wanting to share. They just don't know how to share it. And so I think that's probably the one other big piece that I wanted to share.
For sure. Actually, I want to piggyback off of that quickly, because something that I've noticed when you can tell someone's resisting being vulnerable, like you can just tell, like they're either giving you like short, terse answers, or they're sharing a little bit, but it's all very superficial. It's like, oh, how's the weather? And just making light conversation. It's not going deep. What are some things that you look for in people that you want to hold close to you, whether it's, friends or family? I mean, because we all have family members too that we kind of keep at a distance. But what are some qualities that you look for where you're like, oh, I feel safe with that person, or they make me want to share more of myself, so we develop a deeper connection?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think how well they're engaged, right? How superficial or not superficial. Those are some big things. When we first moved here to Nashville, the one thing that we really loved coming from the West Coast is that nobody ever asked us where we live, what job do we hold, what car do we drive. Like those are all materialistic things that some of those folks are trying to navigate through because they want to know, what can you do for me? Right? Like those are things, those are stare away. Like if you're coming out of the gate and you haven't even got to know me as a person, but you want to label me based on a car I drive, where I live, what community, all those things, that's not my people. And so those are the things I want. Very, likable people that are really vested in learning about who I am, what my interests are. That's my starting point for relationships. And so, Natalie, you made that so easy coming in. I mean, helped that we were both moving into the same community. So we got that one knocked out. But just that from that one start, I'll never forget, we all were going to go down to the winery for the very first time. There was that Facebook post where everyone's like, hey, whoever's going to be here, checking out the house or whatever, like we're going to all be at the winery. This is where you're going to find us, and this is how you're going to identify the group, and blah, blah, blah. So that was really, really cool. But we all showed up. We were all getting pictures of the house as it's being built on the foundation. And I'll never forget, you're like, do you want a picture with your family? And we did the same. And that was our starting point. Like, you didn't have to do that, Natalie. You could have just been all about you and your family and kept it separate and waited till we got to the winery, but you went out of your way. And to me, that was like, oh my gosh, these people are really cool. And look at how cute their kids are. They're really sweet. And then we got to know each other, and you just asked like just really genuine questions. And I think that to me said, this doesn't matter what jobs we hold, why we're here. It didn't matter at that point in time. it was already like, we already drew this connection and we're ready to go. And then you created the fun. You know me, I'm all about fun. So if I'm not having fun, I'm steering away and I'm getting out of there. We live one time on this earth. So it's got to be fun. And you bring it. Like, you got that sense of community here. And so that's what drew me to you. And that's what I continue to look for in other people. What are they doing for others and how selfless? Not what are you doing to make yourself look better or use this person to help you get to where you want to go. Now, granted, now it does sound like I'm talking on both sides, but using somebody to get to where we're at, you help me find my happiness. You help me continue to be able to work on my marriage and my kids just by being you and just having a vested interest in me and asking how I'm doing and really understanding what I'm going through in my life at any given time. You're just very genuine, Natalie. And so I love you for that. Absolutely. And that's what I expect for all people in my life. So I keep a small circle and every one of y'all in that circle, it has similar qualities.
Oh, well, thank you, Jill. Oh, now I'm going to start crying. Well, speaking of being vulnerable, I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I definitely think it helps to hear other people share their journeys than just mine, because this is, like you said, this is not just about me. This is hopefully something that other people can listen to and take what they need from it and use it to help them better their lives. So, Jill, thank you again for being here. I appreciate you.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate you as well, Natalie. This has been really fun and vulnerable, not vulnerable. It was fun telling the story. It's been a while since I've shared this one, so this was great.
Awesome. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Natalie. Take care as well. And thanks for everyone listening.